Welcome, everyone. Good evening, and thanks for joining this session. In this lecture, we're going to do a focused review of some really important digital marketing concepts, covering Facebook advertising strategy, how to think about your target audience, campaign performance tracking, and a quick look at WordPress for web development. Let's dive right in. Before we get into today's material, let's quickly recap what was covered in the previous session. The last class focused on Google search, that means SEO fundamentals, and email marketing strategies. Students were guided through both topics in detail and were encouraged to practice on their own. And that's a really important point. Just attending the session isn't enough. You have to go back, open your tools, and actually practice. That hands-on repetition is what makes these skills stick. Now, let's talk about Facebook advertising. When you launch a campaign on Facebook, there are 3 distinct layers you need to understand. The first layer is the campaign. This is where you define your overall objective, like brand awareness or conversions. The second layer is the ad set. This is where you control your audience targeting, your placements, and your schedule. And the third layer is the ad itself. This is the actual creative that people see, the image or video, the headline, and the ad copy. Each layer plays a different role, and you need to understand all 3 to run ads effectively. Here's something really critical that was highlighted in this session: Facebook's Andromeda update. This is a significant algorithm change from Facebook, and what it does is place a much stronger emphasis on your ad copy. In other words, the quality of the text in your ad now has a bigger impact on how Facebook delivers your ad and how much it costs you. The recommendation here is clear: spend more time on your ad copy. If you need an extra full day just to write and refine your copy, that's time well spent. A well-crafted ad copy can dramatically improve your campaign results, while a weak one can waste your entire budget. So what exactly is ad copy, and why does it have such a big impact? Ad copy refers to all the written text in your advertisement: the headline that grabs attention, the body text that explains what you're offering, and the call to action that tells people what to do next, like visit us today or book your spot now. Great ad copy connects emotionally with your audience. It speaks directly to their needs and desires. It communicates the value of your business in a clear, compelling way. And now, with the Andromeda update, Facebook's algorithm is actively evaluating the quality of your copy when deciding how widely to distribute your ad and at what cost. Think of your ad copy as your digital salesperson. It needs to be persuasive, clear, and relevant. Now, let's talk about audience targeting, specifically the importance of starting local. If your business is located in Kathmandu, then you should be targeting people in Kathmandu first. There's no reason to spend your budget reaching people who are far away and unlikely to visit your location. This is a common mistake beginners make. They try to target everyone and end up reaching no one effectively. Start with your immediate geographic area, build engagement there, and then consider expanding once you have results to learn from. Your ad budget is limited, so make every rupee count by targeting the people most likely to actually walk through your door. Beyond just location, Facebook lets you layer in interest-based targeting, and this is where things get really powerful. Let's say you run a cafe. You can target people in your city who are interested in coffee, but you can go even deeper. You can target freelancers, students, digital marketers, and remote workers, people who are likely to want a peaceful place to sit, work, and enjoy a good cup of coffee. When you combine location targeting with interest targeting, you create a very specific, high-value audience. These are people who not only live near your cafe, but also have a lifestyle that makes them likely to become regular customers. That combination is what makes Facebook advertising so effective when done right. One of the most important winning points in Facebook advertising is visual communication. The idea is simple but powerful. Show people what your business feels like. Don't just describe it. If you run a cafe that offers a peaceful, productive environment, show that in your ad. Show someone working comfortably on a laptop with good lighting, a nice cup of coffee, and a calm atmosphere. When the right person sees that image, they immediately think, that's exactly what I need. They self-select. You don't have to convince them. The visual does the work. This is why investing in good creative visuals is just as important as your ad copy. Let's make this concrete with a real-world example shared in this session. Imagine you need a quiet place to work. There's noise at home, so you grab your laptop, throw it in your bag, pop on your bike, and head to a cafe where you can focus and get things done. That's a real behavior pattern, and it's exactly the kind of person a cafe should be targeting. In Kathmandu, Sangamul Sahitya is mentioned as a great cafe option. In Bhaktapur, near New Thimi, there's a large, lively but calm cafe. In Lalitpur, there are several good spots as well. The point is, these places have real value for remote workers and students, and if you can communicate that value visually and through your copy, those people will find you. Once your ads are running, you need to track their performance, and there are specific metrics you should be monitoring. First, local reach. This tells you how many people in your target area actually saw your ad. Second, brand awareness. For example, if your campaign generated 5,000 impressions, that means 5,000 people were exposed to your brand. Third, click-through rate, or CTR. This tells you what percentage of people who saw your ad actually clicked on it. A higher CTR means your ad is resonating. Fourth, ad group qualification. This helps you identify which of your ad sets are performing well and which ones need to be paused or adjusted. Monitoring these metrics regularly is how you improve over time and get better results with each campaign.
So why should you actually run ads? Beyond just getting more customers, running ads gives you something incredibly valuable: data. When you run a campaign, you learn what kind of messaging resonates with your audience, what visuals get clicks, what time of day people engage, and which audience segments are most interested in your offer. This data is impossible to get any other way. Even a small ad budget, spent thoughtfully, teaches you things about your audience that you can use to improve every future campaign. That's why the recommendation is clear: run ads, track the results, and keep learning.
Now, let's shift gears and talk briefly about WordPress. A key point made in this session is that WordPress is far more powerful than many people realize. You don't need to hire a large development team to build a professional, fast-loading website. If you learn WordPress properly, you can build big, high-quality websites on your own. The session mentions a specific example of a website built on WordPress that loads extremely quickly. Clicking any link opens it almost instantly. That kind of performance is absolutely achievable with WordPress when it's set up correctly. So if you're thinking about building a website for your business or for a client, WordPress is a skill worth investing in. When it comes to websites, there's an important distinction to understand. If a website was built on WordPress, there's a good chance you can learn to manage and update it yourself, and the instructor offers to personally help with that. However, if a website was built on a custom framework, like Monostack or another custom stack, then you need to first understand exactly how it was built and which technologies were used before you can offer any advice or make changes. You can't just assume you know how to fix or update a site without reviewing its structure first. This is a professional mindset. Always investigate before you advise. Let's bring together what we've covered so far. There are 6 foundational ideas that run through this entire session. First, ad copy is king. With Facebook's Andromeda update, the quality of your written copy directly impacts your ad performance. Second, start local. Target where your business actually is before trying to reach everyone. Third, layer your targeting. Combine location with interests to reach people who are genuinely likely to become customers. Fourth, visuals communicate value. Show your audience what your business experience looks and feels like. Fifth, track your metrics. Use reach, brand awareness, CTR, and engagement data to continuously improve. And sixth, WordPress is a powerful tool. Learning it opens up real web development capabilities without needing a large team. These concepts build on each other, and together they form a strong foundation for digital marketing. Picking up from where things left off, the previous session covered Google Ads and email marketing in detail, along with 2 core freelancing strategies. But understanding the theory is only half the battle. The instructor is very clear on this point. You absolutely must keep practicing. The moment you start freelancing, those 2 strategies you learned should be your roadmap. And importantly, this is approaching the final stretch of the course, with internship guidance also on the horizon. When you launch any campaign, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or another platform, there are always 3 distinct layers you need to understand. The first layer is the campaign itself, where you define your overall goal. The second layer is the ad set, where you do your detailed targeting. And the third layer is the ad, where your actual creative and copy live. Now, the instructor makes an important point here. Most of your active work and decision-making happens at the ad set level, because that's where you control who sees your ads. Before you even touch the campaign settings, you need to decide your goal. This is non-negotiable. The instructor outlines 4 main campaign objectives you'll work with. First, engagement. This is when you want people to interact with your post, send messages, or react. Second, traffic, driving people to a website or landing page. Third, awareness, getting your brand or content in front of as many eyes as possible. And fourth, leads, specifically high-quality leads for sales. The instructor personally says they run campaigns mostly for sales leads, engagement, and awareness, and rarely use traffic as a paid goal, because good SEO and strong backlinks can handle traffic organically. Here's an important strategic insight the instructor shares. If your SEO is solid and your backlinks are strong, traffic will come on its own. You don't need to spend money on it. The real challenge isn't getting traffic, it's converting that traffic into action. So the smarter use of your paid ad budget is on engagement, awareness, and lead generation. These are the objectives that actually move people down the funnel toward a purchase or a conversion. Traffic is a means to an end. Conversion is the actual goal. Here's a critical concept the instructor emphasizes strongly. Your campaign objective sets the direction, but your ad copy is what actually gets people to act. You can have the perfect awareness objective selected, but if your ad copy isn't compelling and actionable, nothing will happen. On the flip side, if your ad copy is strong and action-oriented, it can drive results even beyond what the objective alone would achieve. The instructor puts it plainly, make your ad copy actionable. That's the real lever you're pulling. A common question is whether you need to run an awareness campaign before an engagement campaign. The instructor clarifies this nicely. Ideally, awareness comes first. People see your content, views go up, and then they naturally engage. But here's the practical insight. If your engagement campaign has strong ad copy, people will get views and engage and potentially convert, all from a single campaign. So you don't always need to run separate awareness and engagement campaigns. A well-crafted engagement campaign can do all three jobs at once. Let's walk through a real practical example the instructor demonstrates. Suppose your page has 0 likes and you want to grow it. Here's exactly what you do. First, select engagement as your campaign objective. Second, set a campaign budget, and the instructor recommends starting with just $2 a day. Don't overthink it. Third, go into the ad set and handle your detailed targeting for your niche. Fourth, inside the ad set, find the conversion section. Fifth, navigate to the Facebook and Instagram placement options. And sixth, this is the key step, enable the like or follow action button so your ad actually shows a call to action that drives page likes. Simple, low cost, and effective. When it comes to the ad creative, the actual visual and text your audience sees, the instructor shows 2 approaches. You can build a brand new ad from scratch, or you can use an existing post from your page. For testing purposes, using an existing post is a smart move. It saves time and lets you see how real content performs when boosted. Once you select the existing post, a preview appears on the right side of the screen, so you can see exactly what your audience will see. You can also add or edit the call to action button, for example, changing it to visit page or follow directly from this interface. One detail that's easy to overlook but makes a real difference is the call to action button on your ad. The instructor walks through how once you're in the ad creative section, you can choose from several button options: no button, visit page, follow, learn more, and others. Selecting Visit Page, for example, will show that button directly on your ad, giving viewers a clear next step. And importantly, you can edit this without rebuilding the whole ad. Just click into the CTA section, update it, and hit Update Post. This small tweak can meaningfully improve your click-through rate. The instructor gives a powerful piece of strategic advice here. In whatever niche you're working in, identify the top 10 performers, the people or brands who are getting great results. Study them carefully. What kind of content are they posting? What engagement are they getting? What calls to action are they using? Once you understand what's working for them, your job is to research how you can do it even better. This is how you don't just keep up with competitors, you get ahead of them. The instructor says this directly. If you follow this approach, you can leave your competition behind. Once your ad is running, the real learning begins, and that's tracking performance. The instructor outlines the key metrics you should be watching. First, local reach. How many people in your target area actually saw your ad? Second, brand awareness. An estimated count of people who now recall your brand, say 5,000 people. Third, click-through rate. Out of 25,000 impressions, how many actually clicked? That percentage tells you how compelling your ad is. Fourth, net new followers. How much did your community grow? Fifth, community growth. Tracking the actual follower numbers, like 1,200 new followers. And sixth, order increase. Did revenue go up? By how much? Say 30%? These numbers tell the full story of your campaign's impact. The instructor is very direct about this. The reason they keep telling you to run ads, even at just $2 a day, is because you simply cannot see these metrics without an active campaign. Click-through rate, reach, community growth, order increases, these are all live data points. You can study them in theory all day, but until you actually run a campaign and watch the numbers come in, you won't truly understand what's working and what isn't. Practice is irreplaceable here. Even a small budget gives you real data to learn from, and that data is worth far more than any amount of passive studying. Beyond just tracking engagement and reach, the instructor emphasizes that you need to measure your actual return on investment. That means looking at how much you spent on the ad, factoring in the cost of your own time, and then comparing that against the revenue the campaign generated. After subtracting all costs, including your hours worked, what did you actually earn? This is the real measure of whether a campaign was worth running. It's a habit every serious digital marketer and freelancer needs to build. Always know your numbers and always account for every cost involved. After you've run your first 2 or 3 campaigns and gathered some data, the instructor introduces the concept of creative testing. This is where you start systematically testing different versions of your ad, different copy, different visuals, different calls to action, to find out what resonates most with your audience. You're not guessing anymore. You're using real data to make decisions. Once you identify which creative performs best, that's the one you scale up. This testing phase is what separates average campaigns from high-performing ones, and it's a skill that develops with every campaign you run. The instructor closes this section with an important message about ongoing support. Even though this is approaching the last day of formal classes, the learning doesn't stop here. The instructor makes it clear that they're available on Sundays to continue guiding students, and that updates, including certification information, will come through the group. Students from the very first batch are still connected and still getting help. The instructor's message is genuine. Their goal is your growth, and they'll keep supporting you as you move forward into freelancing and beyond. So don't think of the end of class as the end of the journey. It's really just the beginning. So continuing from where we left off, let's talk about creative testing, which is one of the most powerful things you can do when running Facebook ads. The instructor walks through what he calls a 7-way creative testing framework. The idea is simple. Instead of just running one ad and hoping for the best, you build and test multiple versions of your creative, your ad content, across 7 different approaches. Let's break down what those 7 steps actually look like. The first step in the framework is awareness. This is where you simply introduce yourself or your product to the audience. You're not selling yet, you're just making people aware that you exist. And for this, you have multiple format options: a static design image, a short video, or even a carousel or infographic. The instructor specifically mentions testing which of these formats performs better for your audience. Then comes step 2, the hook. Once someone is aware, you need to grab their attention hard and fast. The hook works best when it centers around the audience's problem. If you can make someone stop scrolling because they recognize their own pain in your ad, you've won the first battle. After the hook, you move into the heart of the ad. Step 3 is the pain point. You explicitly name the problem your audience is dealing with. This is critical because when someone sees their exact struggle reflected back at them, they feel understood, and that builds trust instantly. Step 4 is the short solution. You don't need to explain everything here. Just briefly show that you have the answer. Keep it punchy and clear. And then step 5 is the call to action, or CTA. By this point, the person is hooked. They've seen their problem acknowledged, and they've seen a solution teased. Now you direct them. Buy now. Learn more. Contact us. The instructor emphasizes making this direct and clear, not vague. Step 6 is about creating urgency. Once the audience is fully hooked and they've seen the solution, you give them a reason to act right now, not tomorrow, not next week. This could be a limited time offer, limited stock, or a deadline. Urgency is a powerful psychological trigger that converts hesitant viewers into buyers. And finally, step 7 is where the magic of testing pays off. You optimize the winner. After running all your creative variations, you look at which one performed best, and then you sell your budget on that winner. The instructor makes it clear. Don't guess what works. Test, find the winner, then double down on it. Now, within each of those 7 steps, you have multiple creative formats you can test. The instructor specifically mentions static design images, short videos, carousels, which are also called infographics, and regular posts. For awareness, for example, you could run a design-based ad and a short video ad simultaneously, and then see which one gets more engagement and reach. The data will tell you what your specific audience responds to. This is why testing matters so much. You're not relying on gut feeling. You're letting real performance data guide your decisions. So how do you actually set this up inside Facebook Ads Manager? The instructor walks through the practical steps. He recommends starting with 5 creative variations, 5 different versions of your ad. You go into the test section of Ads Manager and you select the metric you want to compare. This could be cost per click, cost per 1,000 impressions, or reach, whatever matters most for your campaign goal. Then you add each creative as a separate ad copy within the test.
One ad gets the video, another gets the static design, another gets the infographic, and so on. The key thing the instructor emphasizes, in every single creative, target the audience's pain point. That's the common thread that ties everything together. The instructor is very clear about this. If there's one thing you take away from the creative testing strategy, it's this: know your audience's pain point and build everything around it. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that if you can identify what your target audience is struggling with and reflect that back to them in your ad, nothing on Facebook will outperform it. So before you even open Ads Manager, do your research. Look at comments, reviews, forums, figure out what problems your audience is dealing with. Then lead with that problem in your hook, acknowledge it in your pain point step, and position your product or service as the solution. That flow is what drives conversions.
Beyond creative testing, the instructor also talks about ad set testing, which is a slightly different concept. Here, instead of testing different creatives, you're testing different audiences for the same product. Imagine you have one product, but you create 4 separate ad sets, one targeting by location, one by age group, one by interest, and one by behavior. You run them all and see which audience segment responds best. The instructor uses Daraz, the major online shopping platform, as a real-world example of this exact strategy. Daraz runs multiple ad sets targeting different audience segments simultaneously, and that's part of why they generate so many sales. You can look at their ad library to see this in action. The instructor encourages students to go into the Facebook ad library and study how big brands like Daraz run their ads. This is a free tool that anyone can use. When you search for a brand, you can see all the ads they're currently running, the creatives, the formats, how long the ads have been active. And here's a key insight. If an ad has been running for a long time, that means it's working. Brands don't keep spending money on ads that don't convert. So by studying these ads, you can learn what formats, hooks, and messaging are working in your niche and apply those lessons to your own campaigns. It's free market research. Now let's talk about budget, because this is where a lot of beginners make mistakes. The instructor gives some clear guidelines. If you have a product priced above 1,000 rupees, $5 a day is actually a solid starting budget and can give you good results. For creative testing with 5 variations, $5 to $10 per ad set per day is reasonable. If you want to reach a large audience very quickly, you'd need to spend $50 to $100. But the instructor cautions that this approach isn't ideal for most people in Nepal right now. The most important rule he gives: do not stop and restart your ads frequently. Facebook treats that as a bad signal and penalizes you with poor impression delivery. And always let your ads run for a minimum of 4 to 7 days before drawing any conclusions. Here is something really important that the instructor explains, and it's a concept many beginners don't know about. When you launch a Facebook ad, it doesn't immediately reach its full potential. There's a maturation period. In the first 1 to 3 hours, the ad is just beginning to be delivered across different surfaces, different placements, different audience segments. The algorithm is learning who responds to your ad. If you stop the ad and restart it, you reset this entire learning process. That's why the instructor says to let it run for a minimum of 4 days, ideally up to 7. By day 4 to 7, you have stable, meaningful data that you can actually make decisions from. Patience here is not just a virtue, it's a strategy. The instructor wraps up the ad section with one very clear, emphatic message: focus on your creatives above everything else. Not the targeting, not the budget, not the placement. The creative. Because the creative is what the audience actually sees. It's what makes them stop scrolling or keep going. It's what communicates your value. It's what you test and optimize. He says if you get the creative right, the results will follow. Everything else, targeting, budget, ad sets, those are secondary. The creative is the engine of your Facebook ad campaign. Now the instructor shifts to a really practical concept: understanding your actual profit. This sounds obvious, but many beginners forget to account for all their costs. The formula is simple: profit equals revenue minus all costs. And the key word there is all. That means your ad spend, yes, but also your time. How many hours did you work on this campaign? What is that time worth? Any tools or subscriptions you paid for? All of that comes out of your revenue before you can call something profit. The instructor encourages students to literally take a pen and paper, write down every cost, and then calculate what's left. That's your real profit. This discipline, tracking costs properly, is what separates serious marketers from people who think they're making money but actually aren't. The instructor makes a really empowering point here. You don't need to start a company or rent an office to build a business. Whatever knowledge or expertise you have, you can monetize it. He gives 3 clear examples. First, an ebook. Write about what you know, sell it online. It costs almost nothing to produce and can be sold to unlimited people. Second, consulting. Offer your expertise one-on-one, either as a consultant or in a class setting. Third, a recorded course. Record your knowledge once and sell it repeatedly, which creates passive income potential. The instructor uses himself as an example. He teaches digital marketing, and that's his product. Whatever your area of expertise is, the same strategy applies. Build your personal brand, apply the marketing strategies you've learned, and that is your business. The instructor also touches on affiliate marketing, specifically how to approach it on platforms like Daraz. The key principle here is niche alignment. If you're promoting electronics, search for electronics products and stay in that lane. If you're in the fashion or ladies' item space, focus there. Don't mix niches because your audience targeting, your creatives, and your messaging all need to be consistent with the product category. The same 7-way creative testing framework applies here. Find products in your niche, build creatives around the audience's pain points, test, and optimize. The platform's search function helps you find the right products to promote within your chosen niche. Let's pull together the key best practices from everything covered so far into one quick reference. Test at least 5 creative variations. Don't run just one ad and hope for the best. Always lead with the audience's pain point in every single creative. Use multiple formats: video, static design, carousel, infographic, and let the data tell you which works. Run your ads for a minimum of 4 to 7 days before making any decisions. Never stop and restart ads repeatedly, because Facebook penalizes that behavior. Once you find your winning creative, scale your budget on it. Test different audience segments using separate ad sets. Always track all your costs to understand your real profit. And study what successful brands are doing in the Facebook ad library. It's free and incredibly valuable. The instructor closes this section with an encouraging note about ongoing support. He makes it clear that the end of a class doesn't mean the end of the relationship. His first batch of students are still connected with him, still getting help, still growing. That kind of mentorship continues beyond the classroom. He also hints at what's coming next: internship opportunities, where students can work with real businesses and get hands-on experience. And he specifically mentions that for those in Kathmandu, there are opportunities to collaborate directly with businesses on real projects. Because, as he puts it, working on real projects is where the real learning happens. Theory gets you started, but real-world practice is what builds actual skill and confidence. Continuing from where we left off, let's talk about 2 foundational pillars of your digital presence: your website and your content calendar. When it comes to your website, the advice here is simple but powerful. Keep it clean. Only put the information that is absolutely necessary. More is not always better. A cluttered website overwhelms visitors and drives them away. Remember, first impression is the last impression. Now, alongside your website, you need a content calendar. The recommendation here is to plan at least 1 full month of content in advance. And here's the good news. You have access to AI tools, Google, and a wealth of resources. Use them. Plan ahead, test your strategy, and stay consistent. Results follow research. One of the most important habits you can build as a digital marketer is consistent research. The instructor uses a personal example here, following Neil Patel, who is currently one of the top names in SEO globally. The reason? To understand his strategies, his hacks, and how he stays at the top. Now apply that same thinking locally. In Nepal's context, ask yourself, who is doing digital marketing exceptionally well right now? Find that person or brand, study them, and learn from what they're doing. The amount of time you dedicate to research is up to you, but the more you research, the better your results. Especially in the learning phase, research-aligned action is what separates good marketers from great ones. Now, let's look at a real-world case study: Himalayan Java. This is used as a practical example of how to build a digital marketing strategy for a specific business. The goal is to increase orders and grow revenue. So who is Himalayan Java targeting? Their audience is very well defined: remote workers and freelancers who want a peaceful place to work, local college and university students, and visitors to Kathmandu who need a comfortable spot. Their core value proposition is simple: a dedicated, peaceful environment with good coffee and free Wi-Fi. And notice something smart about their outlet placement. They've concentrated locations near college-heavy areas like Benishwar. That's not random. That's research-backed strategy. Here's a really insightful point the instructor makes. Think about it from your own experience. What makes you stop and stay somewhere? A park? A hotel? A cafe? The answer for most people today is Wi-Fi. Without Wi-Fi, people don't stay. Himalayan Java understands this deeply. But it goes further. If you add charging ports, people will literally sit there for hours.
And if you pair that with coffee and snacks nearby, you've created a double revenue stream. The park gets footfall, the coffee shop gets customers. This is why it means to understand your audience's behavior. When you design your business around how people actually behave, you don't lose money. That's a fundamental principle of smart marketing. Himalayan Java's strategy maps perfectly onto the classic customer journey funnel, and this is something you can apply to any business. Stage 1 is awareness. They use Instagram and TikTok to create vibes and get in front of students and young professionals. Stage 2 is consideration. They use testimonials and small incentives like a free cookie or tea to get people interested. If you bring a friend, you get a better deal. That's word of mouth built into the system. Stage 3 is conversion. They run targeted discounts and limited time offers to push people from interested to actually buying. And Stage 4 is loyalty. This is where they work to turn first-time visitors into regulars, using loyalty cards, email offers, and WhatsApp promotions. Every digital touchpoint is designed to move someone closer to becoming a loyal customer.
Here's another brilliant observation about Himalayan Java strategy. Why did they place an outlet right at the airport exit gate? Think about it. Not at the entrance, not upstairs, but specifically at the exit. Because that's where people coming off long flights are tired, thirsty, and ready for refreshment. That placement is intentional. It's not random. It's the result of understanding exactly when and where their target customer is most likely to make a purchase decision. The instructor makes a broader point here. Every outlet location Himalayan Java has chosen reflects deep research and a dedicated plan. When you see a successful business making these kinds of decisions, don't assume it's luck. It's strategy.
Now, this is a concept that applies to every business, not just cafes. The idea is frictionless conversion, making it as easy as possible for someone to take action the moment they land on your digital presence. Think about how people behave today. Everything needs to be instant. If someone has to search for your menu, click through multiple pages, or ask someone for information, you've already lost them. The solution is simple. Put a direct menu access button on your website or app. Show your location immediately. Highlight your best offers right on the first screen. Make ordering possible without any back and forth. The instructor puts it perfectly. The more you simplify, the faster people act. Reduce friction, increase conversion.
The frictionless conversion principle isn't just for coffee shops. Let's look at how it applies to other businesses. Take a ladies' clothing shop. If someone visits your website, let them filter by size, color, and design. Let them visualize the outfit. Give them the feeling of the product through the digital experience. For a food business, think about how many types of biryani exist across Nepal. Dharan has its own style, Kathmandu has its own, Bhaktapur has its own. Highlight those regional varieties. Give people choices that feel personal and relevant to them. The same logic applies to shoes, bags, or any product. When you combine choice, value, and ease of action, customers don't hesitate. They act immediately. That's the power of reducing digital friction. Here's an important mindset shift the instructor introduces. You don't need to own a company or open a business to make money from digital marketing. If you have knowledge in a particular area, that knowledge itself can be monetized. The strategy is the same. Build your personal brand, create content, grow an audience, earn trust, and then convert that trust into income. Personal branding is a legitimate and powerful path. The instructor emphasizes this clearly. If you build your personal brand well, you can move forward independently. You don't need a formal company structure to get started. What you need is expertise, consistency, and the right strategy, which is exactly what this entire course has been building toward.
As we move toward wrapping up this section, the instructor outlines the core takeaways for applying everything we've learned. First, use data to drive your decisions. Look at your performance metrics, your call-to-action rates, your click-through rates, your key performance indicators. These numbers tell you what's working and what isn't. Second, identify what can scale. When something works, invest more in it. Third, do SEO on your website consistently and seriously. It's not optional if you want long-term visibility. And fourth, align your audience targeting with real data. Don't guess who your audience is. Research them, understand their behavior, and build your strategy around what the data actually shows. These principles apply whether you're running a cafe, a clothing store, or building a personal brand.
Beyond the classroom, the instructor points to a very exciting next step: internship and real-world collaboration opportunities. If you're based in Kathmandu, there's a chance to work directly with real businesses, apply everything you've learned in live projects, and experience what digital marketing looks like in practice. The instructor notes that working in the real world is a completely different and far more rewarding experience than just studying theory. Feedback from the course will also be shared, and the group link has resources for next steps. The journey doesn't end here. It continues into certification, industry connections, and hands-on work that turns knowledge into genuine expertise.
Picking up right where we left off, the instructor brings everything together by talking about project strategy development. The core idea here is that a complete end-to-end strategy needs to be built, either targeting a specific new business or taking an already established business and building a digital marketing strategy around it. This is not just theory. The instructor is very clear. Without practice, this material will feel difficult. Whether you plan to freelance for clients or launch your own startup, the approach is the same. You need a real, working strategy, not just concepts in your head.
Now let's talk about capturing local search intent. The instructor uses a really relatable personal example here. When he was in college, he would search for things like work-friendly cafe in Kathmandu, a place with good Wi-Fi, quiet atmosphere, maybe a library-style room. He'd search this for different areas, Kathmandu, Bhaktapur, Lalitapur, wherever he happened to be studying. And the key insight is this: whichever website appeared first in those search results, that's the one he would visit. That's the power of local SEO. If a business has a strong online presence optimized for local search, people will find it and walk through the door.
So what actually makes a local business listing effective online? The instructor breaks it down simply. First, show your menu or service list. Give people something to look at before they even arrive. Second, use location-specific keywords so you appear in the right local searches. Third, include direct action links, something like Visit Today, so the user doesn't have to hunt for next steps. The underlying principle is powerful. The more access and information you give a potential customer, the more attracted they become. Think about it like the Nike brand. People buy Nike shoes even at high prices because they already know and trust the brand. That brand value is built through consistent visibility and information. The instructor makes a really important point about brand value here. Once a brand is well established, like Nike, you barely need to convince people to buy. They already know the quality, the reputation, the look. They'll pay a premium without hesitation. But to get to that point, you have to build that brand value first. And for any startup or new business, that means your online presence is absolutely non-negotiable. You cannot skip this step. The digital presence is the foundation of brand trust in today's market. Another key piece of the strategy is community building across platforms. The instructor's guidance here is to share behind-the-scenes content and real-time activity updates. Show people what's actually happening in your business. This kind of authentic content builds familiarity. When people feel like they know your business from the inside, they become loyal. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just consistent, genuine updates across the platforms where your audience spends time.
Now let's get into audience alignment, specifically the concept of lookalike audiences. Here's the scenario the instructor walks through. Suppose you run a Facebook ad for 15 days. If the same person sees your ad 3 times, that's generally considered effective. But if they keep seeing it beyond that, your strategy needs to change. You're wasting budget on the same eyeballs. This is where lookalike audiences come in. Facebook analyzes the people who already engaged with your ad and then finds new people who share similar characteristics. It's a way to expand your reach to fresh, relevant audiences without starting from scratch. The instructor actually walks through the steps inside Facebook Ads Manager to create a lookalike audience. You start by creating an engagement campaign. Then, at the ad set level, you go into the audience section. From there, you can create rules, set your targeting parameters like specific locations or behaviors, give it a name, and save it. Then you switch to custom audience mode, select that saved audience, and Facebook does the work. It generates a new lookalike audience based on the engagement data from your previous ads. The instructor notes that your ad metrics, who watched, who clicked, where they came from, all feed into this process, which is exactly why running ads consistently matters so much.
Moving into affiliate marketing funnels, the instructor introduces 2 tools that make it easy to list and share multiple product links without needing a full website. The first is Linktree, and the second is Hi.me, also called HiLink. With these tools, you can organize your affiliate product links by category: kitchen items, ladies' fashion, furniture, electronics, and share one single link that leads to all of them. This is especially useful for platforms like Daraz, where you might be promoting many products at once. The instructor is clear. You don't need a full website to start, but if you want to look professional and build long-term credibility, building a proper funnel is the better path. He also mentions that for Google AdSense approval through this kind of setup, you need around 1,000 views and 300 clicks.
Let's talk about bidding strategy. This is one of those things that sounds technical but has a very practical logic to it. The instructor explains it simply. If you bid $5 on a Facebook ad, but your competitor bids $6, Facebook will factor that into how it delivers ads. But bidding isn't just about the dollar amount. Facebook looks at your entire ad setup, the targeting, the ad copy, the creative, and the bid together. Here's a clever tip the instructor shares. Instead of bidding a round number like $10, bid $9.95. Why? Think about how petrol pumps work. People often fill up to odd amounts rather than exact round numbers, sometimes because of how meters are calibrated. The same psychology applies here. Avoiding round numbers keeps your bidding slightly unpredictable to the platform's algorithm, which can work in your favor.
The instructor shares something really motivating here. He's seen his own students achieve a cost per click as low as 4 cents. That means for just $1, you could potentially get 25 clicks. When you calculate that out, even a modest budget can drive significant traffic if your ad copy, targeting, and creative are dialed in. He also makes an important practical note. Facebook charges around 30% tax on ad spend in Nepal. However, if you add your PAN number to your Business Suite account, you can reduce that tax deduction. It's a small step that makes a real difference in your effective budget. And above all, test everything. Don't assume what will work. Run small tests, look at the data, and optimize from there.
Now the instructor lays out a clear outbound strategy framework, especially for people just starting out who want to build their personal brand or land their first client. The very first step is to choose a niche. Don't try to serve everyone. Pick a specific area. Then, and this is critical, choose only 1 to 2 services maximum. The instructor is emphatic about this. If you take on too many services at once, you'll panic, and panic kills progress. You'll feel overwhelmed, think it's all too hard, and stop moving forward. Once you have your niche and services defined, identify your target audience, figure out which platform they spend the most time on, decide what kind of ad or content to run, and then plan the content that will actually engage them. Put all of this together into a strategy document. If you do this properly and stay dedicated, the instructor says you can realistically close your first client within the first month. The instructor gives very practical guidance on how to match your chosen service to the right supporting skill. If you choose SEO, your work is fundamentally website-based. That's your core. If you choose content creation, then SEO becomes your best complementary skill because content and search go hand in hand. If you choose social media management, then design skills are what will set you apart. He also points out that even within content, you need to define your format. Are you doing video content or written articles? These require different tools and workflows. Once you've made these decisions, the action steps are clear. Build a content calendar, run ads, write blog posts, and show up professionally. Consistency and professionalism from the very beginning is what builds credibility. The instructor wraps up with a powerful message about personal branding. Right now, every major platform, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, even Google through AdSense, has monetization built in. Content creation has become a legitimate income stream across the board. But the instructor points out something important. Because everyone is now creating content, the people who stand out are those with a strong personal brand. Your personal brand is what makes you recognizable, trustworthy, and worth following. Whether you're a freelancer, a business owner, or an aspiring digital marketer, personal branding is your single most important long-term investment. Hard work will be rewarded. Every platform will pay you, but the effort has to be consistent and focused. The instructor addresses a really practical question that came up from a student. Can you have multiple partners managing different ad sets within the same Facebook business portfolio? The answer is yes. You can assign one partner to manage ads for product A and a different partner to manage ads for product B, all within the same client portfolio. The client doesn't need to give full access. They can grant access at just the ad level, keeping control of their overall account. The instructor also recommends that when working with international clients, it's generally better to run ads to the client's own business portfolio rather than your own. This way, the client can see reports directly, billing is transparent, and the relationship is cleaner. The partner sends an access request, the client accepts, and the work begins. Here's a practical tip that directly affects your ad budget. Inside Facebook Business Suite, under the Business Info section, there is a tax ID field at the bottom. If you enter your PAN number there and verify it, Facebook will reduce the tax it deducts from your ad spend. Without a PAN number, Facebook deducts around 30% as tax. With it, that deduction is reduced, meaning more of your actual budget goes toward running ads rather than being taken as tax. The instructor demonstrates this by showing the Business Info section in Business Suite.
He also mentions enabling two-factor authentication and page notifications while you're in there, so you get real-time alerts whenever something happens on your page. These are small setup steps that make a big operational difference.
A student asks whether dollar cards work for funding Facebook and Google ads, and the instructor confirms. Yes, they do. He uses them himself. There are actually 3 ways to fund your ad accounts. You can use a dollar card directly, you can preload a balance into the ad account, or you can use a post-paid method, where you run ads first and pay afterward. The instructor recommends preloading balance when possible, because it reduces the chance of payment errors mid-campaign, which can disrupt your ad delivery at a critical moment. He also reiterates the Google AdSense threshold. To get approved, you need around 1,000 views and 300 clicks. Once you hit that, approval can come within 8 to 24 hours.
The instructor closes out by talking about the internship program. For those who want to continue beyond the course, there's an internship opportunity. The process starts with filling out an application form. You'll need to include your website link, social media profiles, any designs you've created, and articles you've written. The selection team reviews applications and may include a small task or questionnaire. Once selected, you're placed in an online group, and the internship runs 2 sessions per week, same format as the current class. Project deadlines are typically 1 week per project, so the pace is real and practical. At the end, there's a final test, and upon passing, you receive your internship certificate. The instructor also emphasizes that this isn't just a formality. You'll get to work on real business projects, and mentorship continues even after the course officially ends. The instructor also mentions that he's sharing a recorded WordPress website design class with the group. This is a full course that takes you from registering a domain and setting up hosting, all the way through to building and publishing a complete personal website. This is incredibly valuable for anyone who wants to offer website services to clients or simply build their own professional online presence. Access is being shared through the group link once enough participants confirm interest. The instructor encourages everyone to go through it. Having your own website is one of the most important things you can do for your personal brand and your portfolio as a digital marketer. So here's where everything lands, the concrete action steps to take starting today. Choose your niche, be specific about it. Pick 1 to 2 services and commit to them. Start your outbound strategy. Reach out to potential clients through personal connections or direct messaging. Build a content calendar and post consistently. Focus on your personal brand across platforms. Apply for the internship through the group form if you want real-world project experience. Set up your Facebook Business Suite properly. Add your PAN number, enable 2-factor authentication, turn on page notifications. And above all, practice, test, and iterate. The instructor's goal for everyone is clear. In your first month, with real dedication, you should be able to close at least 1 actual client. That first real-world result will make everything feel concrete and achievable. Picking up right where we left off, when it comes to SEO resources, the instructor makes it very clear. Everything that has been shared so far needs to be practiced thoroughly before moving on. There is more material available, and it will be provided gradually over time. But the key point here is that you cannot skip the practice phase and expect results. There are no shortcuts. All the links, guides, and step-by-step resources are shared in the group, so students can follow along at their own pace. The instructor emphasizes that these resources are structured. You go through them in order, and you build your understanding layer by layer. Here is a really important mindset shift the instructor wants every student to internalize. When you hear the phrase digital marketing, don't just think about running ads or posting on social media. The real job of a digital marketer is to understand the business model first, and then figure out how digital tools can help that specific business generate revenue. Every business is different. A service-based business has different needs than a product-based business. A local business has different needs than an e-commerce store. So before you apply any strategy, you need to deeply understand the business you are working with, who the audience is, what niche it operates in, and what kind of digital support will actually move the needle for that business. To make the strategy building process concrete, the instructor introduces a real-world example, Himalayan Java Coffee, a well-known and established coffee chain that is very popular in the Kathmandu Valley. The reason for choosing an established brand is intentional. When you work with a brand that people already recognize, you can see clearly how digital marketing layers on top of an existing business model. The instructor plans to build out a sample digital marketing strategy using Himalayan Java as the example, and from that, students can take the same framework and apply it to other businesses they work with. The instructor demonstrates something very practical here. If you go to Google and search for Himalayan Java, you will immediately find it through organic search results, Google Maps listings, and individual outlet pages. This is SEO working in real life.
The brand shows up in different formats across the search results page. This is exactly what good digital marketing looks like for a local business with multiple locations. The instructor uses this as a starting point to show students how to analyze what a brand is already doing digitally and then build a strategy on top of that foundation.
So how does the instructor actually approach building a digital marketing strategy? It follows a clear sequence. First, you understand the business model. What does this business do? How does it make money? Second, you identify the target audience and the niche. Third, you audit what the business is already doing digitally. What is working? What is missing? Fourth, you build a full strategy based on that audit. And fifth, you implement and practice. The instructor shows this process live using the Himalayan Java example, and then students are expected to replicate the same process for other businesses. This is the learning by doing approach that runs throughout the course.
The instructor stresses consistency as one of the most important habits a digital marketer must build. There are 3 specific areas where consistency matters most. First, website maintenance. Your website should always be up to date, well-structured, and functioning properly. Second, publishing blogs and articles. If you are learning something new every day, write about it, publish it. This builds your credibility and your online presence over time. And third, even if your field is digital marketing broadly, you can niche down. You don't have to cover everything. You can focus on a specific topic within digital marketing and become known for that. The instructor makes it clear that this kind of consistent effort is what separates someone who gets results from someone who doesn't. Now, let's talk about community building through content. The instructor brings up a really interesting trend, especially in Nepal's IT and business space, where people document their journey from day one. Day 1, I started my IT company from a single room. Day 2, I did this. Day 4, I closed a deal with an Australian client. This kind of behind-the-scenes content is incredibly powerful because people are naturally curious. They want to see the struggle, the growth, the real process, and that curiosity drives engagement. This is brand awareness at its most organic. The instructor says this same approach can be applied to any business, including a coffee brand like Himalayan Java. Show the morning coffee routine, highlight menu items, take people behind the scenes at the cafe. People watch because they feel connected. Moving into Facebook ad budget strategy, this is a question that comes up a lot, and the instructor gives a very grounded answer. Before you can even think about how much to spend, you need to know a few things. Is this a product-based or service-based business? What is the size of your target audience and geographic area? And do you have any existing conversion data? These factors directly influence how your budget should be allocated. But the single most important principle the instructor emphasizes is this: testing must come first. You cannot build a reliable budget strategy without running test campaigns. Without testing, you are just guessing. The instructor breaks down exactly why testing is so central to budget planning. In the first stage, you run test campaigns. You allocate a specific portion of your budget just for testing, and you run different ad variations. In the second stage, you analyze the results manually. Which ad got more engagement? Which one drove more conversions? You judge this yourself based on the data. In the third stage, once you have that test data, you can now make predictions. You can say with confidence, if I spend this much, I can expect roughly this result. That predictive ability is what makes a budget strategy actually work. Without the testing phase, you are essentially operating blind, and no amount of strategic planning will save you. One practical piece of advice the instructor gives is to always separate your testing by business type. Product-based ads and service-based ads have fundamentally different goals and success metrics. For product ads, you are typically optimizing for direct sales and return on investment per product. For service ads, you are usually trying to generate leads or inquiries. The variables you test are also different. For products, you might test different creatives or offers. For services, you might test different messaging or calls to action. By keeping these separate, your test results are cleaner and more actionable. You get a much clearer picture of what is working and why. Beyond just testing, the instructor also recommends building a pre-budget framework before you spend a single dollar. Here is how it works. First, define exactly what product or service you are promoting. Second, set a clear target. What result do you want? Leads, sales, signups? Be specific. Third, assign a budget that you believe can achieve that result. And fourth, and this is the critical step, after the campaign runs, you go back and measure. Did your strategy actually meet the target you set? If yes, you now have a repeatable formula. If no, you adjust. This cycle of plan, spend, measure, and adjust is what professional budget management looks like in practice. The instructor also touches on something very relevant to the current Facebook advertising landscape, the Andromeda update. Before this update, Facebook's ability to deliver predicted results within a given time frame and budget was already reasonably reliable, though results could vary, sometimes higher, sometimes lower than expected.
But after the Andromeda update, the chances of hitting strong results have increased significantly. However, and this is the important caveat, that higher performance only materializes if your ad copy is genuinely strong. The instructor is very clear. The main lever you have to pull right now is the quality of your ad copy. If your copy is weak, even a good budget and targeting won't save you. The algorithm rewards compelling creative.
To reinforce the previous point, in the current Facebook advertising environment, ad copy is the single most important variable you can control. Your budget matters, your targeting matters, but if your copy doesn't resonate with your audience, none of those other factors will compensate for it. Strong ad copy leads to higher reach, better engagement, lower cost per result, and ultimately stronger conversions. The instructor wants students to invest serious time and effort into learning how to write and test ad copy. This is not a secondary skill. It is the core skill that determines whether your campaigns succeed or fail right now. Toward the end of the session, a student raises a question about WordPress limitations, specifically around the limited edition version and certain features that are not available. The instructor acknowledges this and mentions that a tutorial will be shared to address those specific limitations. Students are encouraged to review that tutorial first. Separately, another student expresses interest in a one-on-one consultation. They have their own products, an organization, and goals that go beyond just social media and digital marketing. The instructor is open to in-person meetings and mentions that the office is located in the Kalanki area of Kathmandu, specifically at the 4th floor of the Garima Vikas Bank building. Students can reach out via the WhatsApp number shared in the group to arrange a meeting. So to bring together everything covered in this section, there are 4 core ideas that every student should carry forward. First, always start with the business model. Understand what the business does and how it makes money before you touch any digital tool. Second, testing is not optional. You cannot build a reliable budget strategy without running test campaigns first. The data from those tests is what gives you the ability to predict and scale. Third, in today's Facebook advertising environment, ad copy is the primary lever. Invest in learning how to write compelling copy. It is what unlocks performance. And fourth, consistency across your website, your content, and your community building efforts is what creates sustainable, long-term results. Keep practicing, keep building, and more resources will continue to be shared along the way.
Continuing from where we left off, one of the most powerful things you can do as a digital marketer is to clearly define who you are online. The material here emphasizes that you should not just call yourself a generic digital marketer. Instead, niche down. Say something specific. I am an SEO expert in Nepal, or I am a web developer in Nepal, or I am a content creator in Nepal. That specificity is what makes you memorable and searchable. And beyond just your title, you should be consistently publishing what you learn, daily if possible. Blogs, articles, social media posts, all of it contributes to building your online presence and establishing your authority in your chosen field.
The instructor makes a really important point here. Even if your overall field is digital marketing, you should go even more specific. Pick a certain topic within digital marketing and own it. Maybe it's SEO, maybe it's Facebook ads, maybe it's content creation. The idea is that when you consistently publish content around that one topic, people start to associate you with it. Your audience grows, your credibility grows, and opportunities follow. Maintaining that consistency is not optional. It is the foundation of how personal branding works online.
Now, in the context of Nepal specifically, the instructor highlights that Facebook is still the dominant platform. It has extremely high demand and engagement. So if you have any doubts about whether Facebook marketing is worth your time, the advice is simple. Just start. Spend a small amount, maybe 500 to 1,000 rupees, run a campaign, and feel it out. You will very quickly get a sense of what works, what doesn't, and how far your budget can take you. There is no substitute for hands-on experience, and Facebook in Nepal is the best place to get that experience right now.
The instructor also points out that if your niche happens to be e-commerce, you are in a particularly strong position. E-commerce work is described as more enjoyable and more engaging because there is always something new products, new campaigns, new customer behaviors to analyze. And once you are familiar with e-commerce marketing, you can comfortably manage around 4 to 5 clients per month. That combination of e-commerce knowledge and digital marketing skills is genuinely high value in today's market. Let's talk about brand awareness strategies. The instructor uses a coffee shop, specifically Himalayan Java, as a running example throughout this section. The core goal is to increase brand awareness and drive sales through a mix of content. For a coffee brand, that might mean highlighting specific menu items, sharing morning coffee routines, showing what happens at different times of the day in the cafe.
The idea is to make people feel something, to create an authentic connection. And alongside that, you layer in social proof, customer reviews, real experiences, genuine moments. All of this works together to build a community around the brand.
So what kind of content actually builds brand awareness? The instructor lists several formats that work well together. Reels, short, engaging video clips, simple art and design posts, short-form videos, stories that give a behind-the-scenes feel, customer reviews and testimonials, and longer-form blog articles. The key insight is that it is not about picking just one format. It is about using a mix. Different people consume content differently, and by diversifying your content formats, you reach a much wider audience and keep your existing followers engaged.
One of the most powerful strategies the instructor describes is building a Facebook community. The example given is simple but effective. Imagine you create a Facebook group and commit to posting something new and valuable every single day. The instructor points out that everyone in the room and everyone watching the recording would be ready to join that group. That is the power of consistent value. Your community becomes your most valuable digital marketing asset. It is essentially your list of engaged, interested people who already trust you. And trust, as we know, is what converts followers into customers.
The instructor gives some fantastic real-world examples from Nepal to illustrate the power of virality. When Elam went viral on social media, people actually traveled there, spending money, visiting, exploring. A road went viral once, and crowds showed up just to see it. And right now, a place called Borabat in eastern Nepal is massively viral. Nepali film industry personalities have been visiting, and now everyone wants to go see the dolphins there. The lesson here is profound. When something captures people's curiosity online, it drives real-world action. People spend money, travel distances, and change their plans, all because of digital content. That is the power you are harnessing when you do brand awareness marketing well. Building on those viral examples, the instructor distills the strategy into a clear formula. Give people something new, make them curious, grab their attention, and then deliver value. The example given is an IT-related comment thread. If you open up a discussion about something people are curious about, like a tech topic, people will come. They will ask questions, engage, learn, and if they find value in what you share, they will naturally trust your business. That trust is what eventually turns into sales. So the content you create is not just about visibility, it is about building a relationship of trust with your audience. The instructor also emphasizes that your platform choice must match your target audience. In Nepal right now, the 3 core platforms are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Facebook has the broadest reach across all age groups and the highest engagement overall. Instagram skews younger. It is where the youth audience is most active. And YouTube works across all age groups for longer-form content. The strategic takeaway is simple. You cannot run your business effectively online without knowing where your specific audience spends their time. Once you know that, you focus your energy there. Shifting to a practical Q&A moment from the session, a student asks about trouble adding products to their e-commerce website. The instructor's first question is, what platform is it built on? If it is WordPress, then it is almost certainly using the WooCommerce plugin. WooCommerce does have some limitations, but it is highly customizable. The instructor also highlights the Gutenberg block editor as a particularly powerful tool. It has advanced significantly and allows you to build impressive e-commerce pages without needing to write code. And importantly, sites built with Gutenberg are responsive. They look great on any device. The instructor shares a personal example here, a site called Yanroom, which was built entirely using the Gutenberg editor with only 2 to 3 plugins. The beauty of Gutenberg is that it is genuinely user-friendly. You do not need a developer background to build a functional, professional-looking e-commerce site. Everything from the shopping cart to product pages to order forms can be set up through the block editor. The instructor demonstrates that the site works correctly. Orders go through, data is stored in the database, and the user experience is smooth across devices. One practical insight the instructor shares is about payment integration. Not every e-commerce site needs a full payment gateway from day one. In fact, for many businesses in Nepal, cash on delivery is a perfectly valid and popular option. The instructor explains that even without payment integration, the order system still works. When a customer places an order, all their details go into the database, and the business owner can follow up to confirm and deliver. This is a great way to launch quickly without the complexity of setting up a payment gateway, and then add that integration later as the business scales. The instructor also addresses an important decision point. When do you actually need a developer? If your site is built with WordPress and the Gutenberg editor, you can likely manage most things yourself. But if it was built with something like Monstra, a more technical CMS, then you will need someone with a development background to make changes.
The instructor uses this as a teachable moment. Know your platform. Before you try to troubleshoot anything, understand what your site is built on. That knowledge determines whether you can fix it yourself or whether you need to bring in technical help. Matching your skill level to your platform choice saves a lot of time and frustration. Now, when it comes to e-commerce specifically, this is where things get really interesting. If you're working in the e-commerce space, the instructor points out that you actually have a significant advantage. Once you become genuinely familiar with how e-commerce businesses operate, their needs, their goals, their pain points, you can realistically close 4 to 5 clients per month. That's not a random number. It comes from being selective and strategic about which clients you go after and building a repeatable process around it.
The instructor shares which niches he's currently working in, and this is really useful context for understanding where the best opportunities lie. He mentions travel businesses, manpower and recruitment agencies, hotels and hospitality, and product-based businesses. Now, out of all of these, his current primary focus is on product-based businesses. Why? Because that's also where most of his existing clients are. And as we'll see in a moment, product-based businesses have a very specific advantage when it comes to conversion rates.
Let's talk about the actual ad performance numbers the instructor is working with. He's running engagement campaigns, and his current cost per result is around 0.40, but his target is to bring that all the way down to 0.10. That's an aggressive goal, and he acknowledges it. He also mentions that to get one message or lead, he's currently spending about 0.90. The key takeaway here is that these numbers aren't fixed. They can be improved significantly by working on 2 main levers, your targeting and your ad copy. The better you get at both, the lower your cost per result drops.
The instructor is very clear about this. If you want to reduce your cost per result, you need to focus on 2 things, targeting and ad copy. These are the 2 levers you control. Targeting means choosing the right audience, the right location, the right interests, the right demographics. Ad copy means crafting a message that resonates, that speaks directly to what your audience cares about. When both of these are dialed in, your cost per result drops dramatically. This is where most of your time and testing effort should go.
Here's one of the most important insights from this section. The instructor explains why product-based businesses are so powerful compared to service-based ones, and it comes down to conversion rates. When someone sees a product they want, the decision to buy is much faster. There's less friction, less deliberation. With a service, people need to think, compare, and trust before they commit. But with a product, they see it, they want it, they buy it. That's why the instructor says that bringing in leads for a product-based business isn't just a 5x or 10x return. It can be a 100x return on ad spend. That's the scale of opportunity we're talking about.
The instructor also gives us a peek into how he manages multiple clients simultaneously. He mentions that he currently has 3 different ad accounts running, each for a different client in a different niche. He's only showing one in detail, but the point is that this is the reality of working as a digital marketer or media buyer at scale. Each account is independent. Each has its own strategy, and even small improvements in targeting or copy can produce strong results across all of them. This is the kind of portfolio approach that builds a sustainable freelance or agency business.
Now let's shift to Instagram strategy. The instructor uses Himalayan Java, a coffee shop, as a practical example to explain how local businesses should approach Instagram advertising. The concept is simple but powerful. If your business is physically located in Kathmandu, there is absolutely no reason to target people outside of Kathmandu. Start local. Target the people who can actually walk through your door. For a coffee shop, the ideal interests to target are coffee lovers, freelancers, students, digital marketers, and remote workers, people who are likely to want a comfortable place to work with free Wi-Fi. The suggested approach is to run ads for 15 days, then use the remaining 15 days of the month to collect reviews and feedback. That feedback loop is gold for improving your next campaign. The 15-day cycle the instructor describes is a really practical framework for local businesses. You spend the first half of the month running your ads, driving traffic, generating engagement, and getting people through the door or onto your page. Then in the second half, you pause and focus on collecting reviews and feedback from the customers you just acquired. Why does this matter? Because reviews build social proof. When your next campaign runs, potential customers see real people vouching for your business, and that trust factor directly lowers your cost per result. It's a compounding strategy. Each cycle makes the next one more effective. The instructor then shares an example of a student of his who runs a business events company in Kathmandu. This is a really interesting niche. This client organizes business-oriented events, brings in prominent speakers from India, and also sells business books alongside those events. They're even in the process of creating their own books. What makes this case study valuable is that it shows how diverse the clients you can work with really are.
The instructor also notes that their website is built on WordPress, loads very quickly, has no unnecessary heavy plugins, and his team is currently handling the SEO for it. It's a clean, efficient setup, and a great example of what a well-optimized client website looks like.
One practical detail the instructor mentions is around payment models for e-commerce clients. Not every customer is comfortable paying online, especially in markets like Nepal where digital payment adoption is still growing. That's why cash on delivery, or COD, is such a powerful option. When a customer doesn't have to pay up front, the barrier to placing an order drops significantly. It builds trust, especially with first-time buyers. The instructor points out that even if a client isn't set up for online payments, offering COD can still drive strong conversion. It's a simple but often overlooked strategy that can meaningfully improve your results. The instructor briefly touches on something that's easy to overlook but critically important: website speed and technical setup. He notes that the business events client's website, built on WordPress, loads extremely quickly and doesn't rely on heavy or unnecessary plugins. This matters for two reasons. First, a fast website gives users a better experience, which means lower bounce rates and higher conversions. Second, page speed is a direct ranking factor for SEO. His team is actively working on the SEO for this site, and having a clean, fast foundation makes that work much more effective. The lesson here is simple. Before you run ads or do SEO, make sure the website itself is solid.
Let's bring everything together from this final section. First, if you can specialize in e-commerce, do it. The earning potential and client volume are significantly higher once you're familiar with the niche. Second, your cost per result is always improvable. Targeting and ad copy are your two biggest levers. Third, product-based businesses convert faster and at higher rates than service-based ones, making them ideal clients for paid advertising. Fourth, when running Instagram or Facebook ads for local businesses, always start with hyper-local targeting. Go where your customers actually are. And fifth, the 15-day run and review cycle is a simple but powerful framework for continuous improvement. These aren't just tactics. They're the building blocks of a scalable, sustainable digital marketing business. Apply them consistently, and the results will follow.